Rod said the game was running late, so I don't know that Kevin will be there. Rod said the game was running late, so I don't know.
At this time, there's nobody else is joining Zoom. I don't know if you want to just keep it up or. What your thoughts are?
Nobody's joining, right?
I always turn mine off.
I'd like to call this North Newton School Board meeting to order on Monday, February 8th, 2020. Call to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance with a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to start with item C, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the consent agenda, which consists of the regular board minutes of January 11th, 2021, the personnel reports, the consent vote.
Donation. Request.
Here. Donations, field trip requests, financial claims reports, personnel reports, and consent vote. And on the personnel report, for support staff personnel, transfers, promotions, demotions, Cassandra Stimick from probationary status to permanent status as special education support staff at Lincoln Elementary effective January 15th, 2021. Recommended for leave, Danielle LaFoon, family medical leave as sixth grade teacher, Morocco Elementary from April 10th, 2021 to May 22nd, 2021. Extracurricular personnel, Michael Jameson, boys golf, the 2021 seasons. And as a matter of record, we have the resignation, retirements, terminations, non-renewals of personnel. We have Joyce Butler from Morocco Elementary, special education homebound teacher, effective February 4th, resignation. I'd like to have a motion for our consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Is there any discussion?
I had some things I had questions on.
And I got the answers. I emailed Karen earlier on vouchers and claims. School specialty for $2,187.71. And that was for Lincoln. I'm assuming that's a Gaga ball pit. And then are our other schools gonna get those as well, or just Lincoln?
Lake Village already has those.
Lake Village already has one, okay,
We
cool. Okay, great. And then, MAJA Paint Pros for $3,727.38. That was a repair to one of the trucks. This claim, it's the claim to repair the truck. Is that an insurance claim? Or?
Well, it was a quote, did we turn in insurance or was it?
Yeah, that's beyond the insurance. Okay, that's what's beyond the insurance. And then Rensselaer Central School Corporation, $75,274.94, and then that's for the Chromebooks because we were in the Gears grant. So they purchased them, they got, so then we're paying for
We
that.
received, yes, well, the grant runs through us along with West Central, South Newton, Rensselaer.
Okay. And then Indiana Developmental Training for $17,863.75 and $14,982.50. And that was for special education. It's through the Indiana Department of Education and Cooperative. And it's an expense that is the state of Indiana's responsibility, so we pay and then they reimburse us. And then there was another one that sits outside of that, and that's our expense. It's for 2002, $65.75 from Indiana Developmental Training.
Anything else?
Yep, those are my questions.
Anyone else? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have the board member administrator reports.
I have performance services here to give you an update on where we're at with our projects. I'm gonna have them come in and just briefly kind of get you updated on that.
He's waiting. They're right there.
You're up. Okay. So we have Tony Kirkendall from Performance Services, and he brought with him a couple individuals to talk about our timeline and where we're at with our project, and just kind of give you a quick update. As you're aware, the board that entered into this, we've had discussion about projects at the high school to do some renovations to the pool. Some chilled piping work that needs to be done for the HVAC system at Lincoln Elementary that would start after school's out. And then also improvements in this building, Lake Village and Lincoln, to replace all of the fluorescent fixtures with LED. And if you've noticed anything different in this room, they've all been replaced. So these are all LED lights. They're about finished with Morocco. They're moving pretty quickly. So if
Yeah, I
you-
noticed how bright it was when I walked up the stairs.
big difference.
It's noticeable, right?
Yeah. And so then the offset of our electricity, our entire electricity should be offset by solar. So after the project, our average electricity bills for the 3 elementaries combined are roughly $200,000 a year. And so the savings would be $200,000 to our operations account. So this will allow us to offset all of our electricity to our solar panels. So Tony's here to kind of talk about how the project's coming along and answering questions that the board may have.
Sure. And so, yeah, first things first, what I'd like to do, so is just kind of introduce both of our project managers. So they're really the guys that, as this thing kind of gets turned over from the development stage and pricing stages, they take the project and run with it. So to my immediate left here, this is Scott Gully and Joe Clausen. Joe's pretty much going to be on site day to day, and Scott's kind of behind the scenes doing all the paperwork and contractual things. Actually, we'll both do that. But you kind of hit a lot of those points, so I just did want to summarize and say, we're kind of off to a really good start, and Scott's going to share with you kind of where we're at and what to expect over the coming months. But what's really important, we kind of started right now, is what you've noticed, a lot of the lighting. So you're going to see a lot of LED going inside and outside your buildings. And that's done intentionally. We want to do that first to reduce your overall usage at each elementary school. And then once that usage is brought down, we want to then offset what remains with solar. And so that's how we have sized those solar arrays. And it is very important to, I'll say, point out, to generate that $200,000, that's an annual savings, essentially what you were paying on your electric bill. That's year over year. The solar projects are designed to last 30, 40 plus years. So these are gonna be around for a long time, and so will those savings. And so that's kind of done intentionally. And what I also like to say is, it kind of helps from a budgeting and from your operational perspective to say, what happens at times, right, with utility companies if you happen to get a rate increase, which happens not a base year increase every single year, but you have small increases kind of built into your current structure. But what we really try to avoid, what you guys have done, is you're going to have certainty moving forward for a long, long time, because if you happen to get a 5% or a 10% or a 15% rate increase, I won't say it doesn't matter, because everything still matters to some degree, but you guys are protected because you have your own generation source. The last thing I'll mention on the solar piece as well is the curriculum piece, which everything that we do with doing all this work in your school districts, we want to kind of tie it back to the classrooms as well. So a lot of your principals, a lot of your teachers, we're going to be providing that K through 12 curriculum at the end of the project that will actually incorporate your solar systems right outside the classrooms. So a lot's going to be happening. I just wanted to share that much. Really, I'm going to turn it over to Scott. He'll just kind of walk you through where we're at and what you guys can expect, and then we'll answer your questions.
Thank you, Bill. I've got a little handout real quick. If you guys want to pass it around, we'll kind of follow this the best we can. Plenty of extra here. Sure. I'm gonna do two there. But this is just a summary of a work plan and construction schedule, meant to give you guys a quick update. If you have any questions, let me know. But this particular project had a couple scopes tied to it that required a state plan submission and approval process. And so going in chronological order, those first three general items up top, I'll just talk to those real quick, but keep in mind that we're still in the state plan review and approval process right now. And while we're waiting on the solar and the pool piece to be approved through the state, we're currently doing the site prep and the survey and the staking, things that they don't require a permit to do. So we're kind of been working kind of out here on the sites, prepping for when we do get state approval and go in front of your local permitting people, that we'll be ready to roll with the racking and the solar panel installation right away. So that first item of those three general items up on top, just the last 5 or 6 weeks, we've been doing a lot of site prep and surveying and staking, and you might have noticed that out on your sites at the three elementaries. The second item there is, like I said, the state permit review and approval process. We got our drawings submitted for the solar and for sure the solar last week, and we anticipate about a 10 to 14 day approval process. So we plan on starting the solar work here in the next couple of weeks. The third item down is the local county and town permit approval process. And we anticipate, since we've submitted the solar to the state, like I said, it's about a 2-week process. At the end of February here, actually getting the local permits and being able to start installing the racking and the solar panels, which you'll see some progress here soon on the solar, and it's exciting. I broke it down a little bit, solar and LED. I want you to know that January through May is the process of mobilizing and completing the LED lighting retrofit at Morocco Lincoln Lake Village. We started at Morocco first. I'd say that we're around 85–90% complete. And we had material delivered today over at Lake Village for that lighting. And I think we got an update from our sub today in our progress meeting. And I think they'll be starting over at Lake Village as soon as late next week. So we're excited to get started at another elementary and finish this one up. There's a timeline of February 25th through June 24th to mobilize and complete solar at Morocco, Lincoln, and Lake Village. There's a little bit different process once we get our state plan review release with Morocco. That's a little bit different in securing a local permit for Lake Village and Lincoln. So we may start the racking and the solar at either Lake Village or Lincoln. We're trying to decide on which one right now, but that will be starting here in the next couple weeks. The junior high and high school pool renovation and Lincoln Elementary chilled water main replacement. Right now, the plan is to get all of our logistics and our kind of like our safety and our laydown area and get organized with our pool contractor and start the pool work in mid-March. And we anticipate that being 4 or 5 months long. But we've got a good plan to start that soon and move through that work. And then we're going to mobilize and replace your existing chilled water main piping and the valving at Lincoln Elementary over the summer while students are out of session. And then we'll have a punch list and commissioning and turnover period where we kind of tweak everything and do our punch list and commission. So any questions so far?
I got a question
Yeah.
for you. With the pool, I believe that's part of the fire suppression in the school.
Mhm.
Now, do you have to hook up with the fire department to say, hey, this is what we're doing, and they might want to change the valving or the water hookup for their trucks?
Yeah.
Everything is modernized.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Joe, you can probably help me. You've been involved with a couple of those meetings, but we met locally with the local fire department, and they have agreed to fight a fire by bringing, I think, several tanker trucks down and backfeeding or tying into a fire hydrant. So if the pool would happen to be drained and there would happen to be an emergency while the pool is drained, they have a plan to, I think it was 3 local fire stations, to bring them all down at the same time and fight the fire from a local hydrants with their tankers. So there is a plan in place. We're getting a letter from your local fire department stating what the plan is, and they'll be read. So that'll be on record. And I think we requested that letter, and I think they're working on it, committed to it any day. So,
Yes.
yeah, good question.
And then for the local permits, for Rose Lawn and Lake Village, are you going to a county meeting to do that? What is the process there? Because since they're not incorporated.
Yeah. So we have met with Mr. Kane for the Lake Village and Lincoln permits. And he has seen the plans, and he knows the scopes of work, and he is ready for us to submit the local permit as soon as the state plan review placard comes back,
Okay.
which should be in a couple weeks. But he is prepared to, I think, award us that permit as soon as we get our state plan review
Okay. And
complete.
then you guys will submit that same to the town
Mhm.
for theirs. Okay.
And if there aren't any more questions, I have one more thing that I wanted to just make you aware of and discuss with you. This is just a kind of a rudimentary. I think there's enough there. So this is a kind of a rendering, if you will, of Morocco here, the site. And there were some, I want to call them bushes, some greenery, some
There were some
Better
evergreen
term,
trees
some
out there.
shrubs, evergreen trees.
Evergreens.
And we kind of,
Evergreen trees.
yeah, we kind of got a little bit ahead of ourselves, and we had a sub of a sub take those trees out, unbeknownst to us while we weren't here on site. There's a little bit of miscommunication. So we came up with a plan to landscape out by the fence and kind of screen that solar array. And part of that is to provide a screen down here on the corner and wrap that around. Kathy, Dr. Rowe, there's a couple little elements to it that we're going to kind of keep an eye on, and it may not be a complete final design. It may be a work in progress, but we've got to be aware of the traffic at that intersection, and just make sure that that screening doesn't block the view from the traffic. And we also are aware that that screen may not last forever. And so we want to maybe consider providing some slow growing shrubs or bushes where that screen is, so that if that screen does wear out or eventually fall or tear away, those slow growing shrubs will kind of act as a screen then over the years. So those just don't last forever.
So on the screen where you have it here in the blue,
Mhm.
so there's already currently a screen out there, correct? Or there has been one that said Morocco Elementary, or just a poster? There's a banner or something out there.
Yes.
There's been a banner or something out there, yes. But so there's gonna be a screen there, so that's still a parking lot though. I mean, where are they going into the parking lot, I guess?
The concern is pulling, that's the parking lot,
Yes.
pulling
Back here.
out, yeah, pulling out to the street, just making sure people can see.
Yeah, Scott, sure.
Because
This
is
will
the
help.
fence
This
past
kinda
where
gives you
the fence already
A
is?
little better idea of kind of what we're proposing.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
And then, so I'm sorry, you guys are gonna put the trees and the landscaping back, and that's not extra in the project, correct? Because those got accidentally removed?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Some were slated to come out to.
I know
certain
some were,
points,
but not,
yes,
I know not all of them.
Yes.
So that's why I just wanted to make sure it
Yes.
wasn't gonna be a change order and cost anything extra.
Yeah, their chainsaw kind of got away from them that day.
We'll have a drawing of who gets to park.
Do you have a drawing on the, who gets to park underneath that? Maybe we charge. Don't park underneath.
Oh,
Take that as a
Especially when it snows.
How much does it cost?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was done by our professional rendering by our team, and that one was kind of quick response from our landscaper. So like I said, we've got a little work to do. We wanted to give you an idea and let you know that we're going to take care of the problem and provide some screening and some bushes that I think when we walk away will look really nice.
Thank you.
Put your hand.
I think that's all I have tonight. Any other questions? Hopefully you found that helpful and have an idea.
And I would just offer too, Dr. Rowe, if you guys, there's specific intervals, if you guys would like updates from us, like if it's 10 minutes, covering about a 9-month, project here, but if you'd like different intervals or for us to provide something, just let the superintendent know, we'd be happy to provide updates. Maybe you just want some documents updates versus us coming, I know you have a full agenda. Feel free to let us know, and we're happy to help show up and answer questions along the way.
Once a month, we're gonna do a kind of like what we've got done in the last month and what, in detail, what we plan on doing in the following month or 2 weeks. And with some photos, some progress photos that we're gonna do once a week and send to Dr. Rowe. So she can share that with you guys as well. But like I said, if you want to have us back for another update, just let us know.
That would be great.
We appreciate you being here.
Sure.
Yes.
Every few months.
Thank you for the time.
Everybody knows what's going on.
And just so you're aware too, Casey Ellinger and I are involved in, every 2 weeks, there's a contractor meeting or subcontractor meeting. So we just had one today, a Libyan owners meeting, and it's once a month. We just had that like last week or the week before. So all through the process, we keep meeting with them to kind of go over things and work out things that come up or maybe surprises or what have you, so.
They keep us on our toes. Been great to work with. And so, been good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Any principals want to go next?
Wait, I have, might have a digital copy of this, but here's some paper ones you can look through too. So today we kind of want to do things a little different than our normal board reports. We want to share with you our data dashboards of things that we've been collecting. So this is Lake Village, and I love this quote here, and I'll read it for those of us over here too. So data is not about adding more to your plate. Data is about making sure you have the right things on your plate. So as teachers, we can be filled with a lot on our plates. We can go just an inch deep and a mile wide, but data kind of helps us focus. And when we have focus, we know where we're going, why are we going there, and do we need to keep going that same direction or do we need to change? So if you go to the second page, my data dashboard is kind of on those two slides there. The top part is what I'm constantly looking at. So our reading percentage at or above grade level, and my goal is 90% of our students will be at or above grade level. Right now you can see our current indicators. I added where we were last year because this was my goal last year as well, so my data dashboard kind of continues. In the blue highlighted, if you could see, is where we have been this year. So in the fall we were at 64 7/10%, and now in the winter after NWA we're up to 70.5%. Still not where I'd like to be, but we are growing. So I'll take growth too, which is pretty great in our pandemic of a year with kids coming in and out. So, but 90, I mean, if I could, I would make it 100% because that's my ultimate goal, but 90% is our achieving goal. Same thing for math. I have 90% at or above grade level. Again, for fall, we were at 62 2/10%. And in the winter, we had a little growth there as well with 66.5%. So we are raising our scores. And if you can see for reading, we take in NWA benchmark, which we do from our K through 3 with our title and some Lexiles level. With math so far, we just have NWA to kind of go on is where I'm using that data. The other thing, and we've talked about this at board meetings, and you've heard us talk about it on our weekly messages if you get them, is our yes ma'am. So we're doing that district-wide too, but that is also a focus that I want our teachers, and I need to be intentional about that. So my goal is kind of layered in that yes ma'am. First, I have anchor charts for every classroom, including our specials classrooms, our open resource rooms, our STEM room, our room, everywhere there is a yes ma'am poster. So, and do those teachers, I've passed them to them, do they have them hanging up? Some teachers, if you could see in the evidence, they do have the yes ma'am anchor chart, but some had already been doing a type of constructed response, which is RACE, which is another type. So it's restate, right? We want to have our evidence and things. It's a similar format. It's just a different acronym. But they are doing the same thing, restating, giving 2 types of evidence, and writing a complete sentence. So we are doing that across the board. You can see that I see it in classwork where we are. At first in the fall, it was about 3 of our teachers. Now I have all of our classroom teachers are using it in their classwork. The verbal usage I have for our specials. They don't always write. They're not always writing a sentence in music or in art or in PE, right? But when they do, I expect them to respond with a complete sentence. So if they say, if they ask you, which way are you supposed to throw the ball? And they say overhand, then Mr. Holmes will say, can you use that in a complete sentence? I am supposed to throw the ball overhand because you told us this is the way to get it, right? So then they have their evidence. So if we could do that verbally, if they could say it, they could write it. So I'm tracking that. Down at the second one, these are still on my dashboard, but these are the areas that kind of have, they're not going to be as stellar as they would in a non-pandemic year. Let's just be honest here. So small group reading instruction is something we've been working on at Lake Village. We've been planning ours. I've been coaching teachers on how do we use that, and they were doing amazing last year. And now we're back to the 80s, right? With every kid facing forward in their own seat. We want to keep the kids separated. So they're doing small group reading, but it looks a little different. It might be go to a different classroom and they're spread out around a room. So it's not the traditional how we have it, but they are working on their small group lesson plans. I do have a note that almost all of my teachers, except for 6th grade, were a little tight there, but she does use the push out for support and then come back in. She's not doing rotations in quite the same way. So it's there, but not really how you would count it. So I wasn't sure how to, on my data, I was being a little bit more truthful for myself. Math instruction is the same way. Math, we've been etching into. Reading is easy to do small groups and math is a little bit trickier. So we've been going in there, but our teachers are using that. They, again, are sometimes it's go to a different room. Sometimes it's pull some students with us. It might be what I like to call a 3-ring circus. Some kids are working on their own. Some kids might need to work and phone a friend while others are working with the teacher. And then our attendance. Our attendance is actually pretty awesome, but that's because we can count all of the virtual students as present if they are out for COVID, right? So our goal is 96%, and we are at 97 and 6,700%. So, and I changed that just this morning too to reflect our current. So there we are. So I guess thank you, COVID, for that, right? So we've made some goals. And just kind of a quick little, as we go through, I won't take up too much more of your time, but when you're looking at this, where do you get this information? What does all of this even mean? When I started here, they had data charts, and it was their NWA data that was given by the Title I teacher to teachers. So they were not tracking their own. And it's very important for us as educators to know where our students are. So we can get that data, and that's fine to look at it, but if we're not owning that and knowing where it's coming from, what do we do with it, right? So we need to have that information. So now our teachers are phenomenal data takers. We have on the next page is our Lake Village data wall. This is a sample of our kindergarten wall. But I have every classroom, every kid, we have information on where they are. And this is scrambled. I kind of made it so this is not, you can't go alphabetical order and figure out what kindergarten it is, right? So you can see I have our August and our December for right now. You can see where they were and then where they have grown. We use multiple points of data for kindergarten. This is one for our upper elementaries. We have our math and reading. It counts as our NWA. We do have benchmark level for K through 3. And then we also have for 2 through 3, we have SRI, which is another reading level that we take as part of our identification for title. And then we use our iRead data, I use our iLearn data, and every year, so this kindergarten grade, when we make first grade classes, they're gonna see their kindergarten data and their first grade data. So I have, from where we've been, if they've been in kindergarten with me so far, so our littles that have grown, they have, teachers can see their growth over time. I also have data talks with my teachers. So every quarter I meet with them and we talk about where our kids with our data. And then sometimes, let's be honest, there's things that data doesn't tell us. Like you might see a kid drop and you're like, why did that kid get that grade? Well, they could have been sick during NWA testing, or something could have happened in their family that they weren't ready for. So those conversations, so I have another sheet where I keep information about students personally too that might be helpful for us. Do we need to support them with maybe more supports with their mental health to be able to get their academic health up, right? Because if you're worried about what's going on in your family, math and reading and science don't matter. We know this, right? So we take all of those things into consideration. But we do kind of look here, and I love this little chart. When we're talking about where's our data, where's our visuals, we need narrative, we need all of that in order to make a change. And I can say, I know that it's been a little rocky this year, just from where we're going, but Lake Village has changed and has grown. And so our big picture is on that last little page is you've heard and seen, Dr. Rowe has her data dashboard, her goals. All of us administrators have goals. Then our teachers are tracking goals. And then with those teachers, our students are tracking their goals. So at any time you can say, where are you here? What are you doing? And then my 4th graders can say, oh, you want to know how I'm doing in reading? Oh, here's my SRI points. Here's how I've been doing on my tests. Here's what I've been doing at NWA. Our students are tracking their data too in a lot of our classes. And that's my big goal, is to empower them. Because if they're like me, I'm a big data nerd, and it's probably from a lot of video games. I always want that next achievement, right? So that's a great way to keep working for something. Okay, how do I get to this next goal? Oh, I want to get to there. I want to get to there. It empowers us to be better. And that's why data is important. So thank you.
Thank you.
I still like a micro machine, like a speed reader. Sorry about that.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello. So this is really exciting because I promised you I did not bring with me tonight. So this is the dashboard, and this is what I would say is kind of the tip of the iceberg, because I believe data, if collected right, in the right manner, and the right kind and the right amount in a timely fashion, will tell a story. That combined with teacher input and perspectives from observation make a really powerful tool. And so we use data for two things: to track and to look at growth, and then also proficiency. So we want to work towards proficiency, and the way that we get there is through growth. And actually, to increase our proficiency and our achievement, we want to exceed our typical growth. That's what I refer to as gap closers. And so we know we can't close gaps unless we're just plugging along and getting the same amount of achievement. So up at the top of this dashboard, I have two bulleted lists. The first one is the vision. Whenever you have a vision, it's an idealized picture of what you want your school to be, where we have 100% of students who pass iLearn and iRead and exceed their growth, and 100% of students who are in attendance daily and never miss a day ever. And we know that that's not always possible, but that's the goal that we're always working toward. The goals below it are based on our current data, a gutsy goal that we think that we can achieve on our way to trying to get to achieve that vision. And so 96% attendance, 85% overall passing rate on IREAD 3, 95% of students exceeding their typical yearly growth, and then 80% of students in 3 through 6 will score at proficiency or above on iLearn. I didn't put the attendance data on here. We've kind of paused that in a sense due to COVID. We still track it internally. One of the things we're looking for are there students that have chronic attendance issues? And then we look at those kiddos, not because they've been quarantined, but they called off 40 times during the year and they don't have a reasonable excuse. And some of those things where maybe those families might need some additional support through some wraparound services that we can communicate and get them, because we know that if kids aren't in school, whether they're on an iPad virtually in school or they're in present in the building, we know they're not going to learn if they're not there. So attendance is still important, but we've stopped doing things like recognizing perfect attendance for this year, because it's really not fair to say, I know that you've been quarantined because you're a close contact and now you no longer get that. So we just have focused on being well and being present. iRead, these are, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm just going to show you, this is kind of how I broadly track those goals. So this is iRead. This year we've got 40 third graders, and actually at the beginning of the year we had 40. Now we have 43. We've actually had a couple that have left, and we've gotten some more. So it's not just been 3. We look at their data to see where they are, and then just based on what we know to be some correlation skills, some crosswalk studies that have been done to say, if students can achieve this on their benchmark assessment, we know that they are likely to have the skills to pass iRead. And it's really not a specific formula as much as it's knowing the kids, learning their strengths, learning where their gaps are, and then being able to make a prediction about who are those kiddos that are going to need some extra support. And so the thing that was interesting to me when I was looking at iRead this year was I know that the kids on paper, when we have the digital data walls, where we keep track of multiple assessment pieces all the time on all kids, I know that there's growth and I know that there's improvement. But the numbers, the raw numbers as far as predicted to pass hadn't changed that much. And what I finally went down to was added another piece. The beginning of the year, we had what I would call 5 kids that were bubble kids, which means they were close, but they're not there yet. The rest of the kids that were not predicted to pass were significantly below level. Now, almost all of the kids that we're still watching and tracking, they're those bubble kids. So they have made growth, but they haven't changed like from red to yellow or green or something that when you looked at it at the surface level would say, this is improvement. You had to dig a little bit deeper. And so what we're going to do from that is, as a 3rd grade team, we're going to meet and start talking about what kinds of interventions and preparations specific to kids for those specific skills, because I read 3 sections. The first one is phonics based. The second 2 are reading comprehension with kind of those right there questions. So making sure, is the kiddo not in danger of passing because they're not going back into the text and they don't have that skill of looking for their answers in the text? Or is it a phonics issue? And so we're really starting to dig down, not just to the student, to the skill itself, to make sure they have what they need so they can pass. we track NUIA, which is on the back page, and you can see we track not only the proficiency, but also the growth. And you can see that anything that is written under there in growth that is in black is that they have exceeded their typical projected growth. And that's what I really like to see. The numbers that are in red doesn't mean that they haven't made growth. All the grade levels made growth. They just didn't exceed what would be considered a typical growth. And so if you notice, for example, in math, every single grade closed gaps. That's amazing. That's what we want to see every time. And then on the bottom, this is iLearn information. NUIA does a crosswalk study and makes a prediction of passing. It's not 100% foolproof, but what we have done in our quarterly data meetings this time is for 3rd through 6th grade, we've looked at those data, looked at those kiddos, said who's on the bubble, who can we provide some extra skills to. The grade level teachers are getting together. They're digging in at the individual student level to find what those skills and what those gaps are. They're making a plan. We're going to meet back together and talk about what resources, what's their plan to get those kids who are on that edge of they're almost there to bump them up so that they pass. In K-2, we're doing something a little different because obviously those kiddos are not taking iLearn, but we're looking at what are called short cycle assessments. We look at NUIA, it's great data, but we do it 3 times a year. And so for our kiddos that are they're just learning to read or they're developing their number sense, how can we track specific skills that are in need of improvement and do it in a much more rapid fashion? So we're getting feedback every 2 weeks or every month. And so K-2 is going to be focusing on those short cycle assessments. I'm guessing that right now, just the way that we're talking, we're looking at 2nd grade doing some sort of phonics or nonsense word fluency, because our 2nd graders that are struggling in the areas of reading, that seems to be kind of the underlying problem. So we're going to look at how can we do that? What can we do that is a very quick intervention, intense time to teach some of those skills? And then how can we go back and cycle through and see the growth and go from there, and how can we measure it? So that is kind of our plan. We do basically from school-wide, which is what you have here. We do grade level data, we do classroom level data, we do individual student level data, and then even sometimes within particular students that we're really a little bit more concerned and we want to be tracked very carefully, we look at specific skill data. And then we use all of those things to drive our instruction and to help to make that improvement, to get that growth and that proficiency. So, see, I didn't even bring a chart for you tonight. All right. Did you have any questions?
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
Mine looks very similar to Mrs. Neal's. We beg and borrow and steal, and we share a lot with the elementary principals. But before I get started in there, I just want to give you a quick update. My 3rd graders are participating in the Read to the Final Four. They have made it to the next round, so we are very excited. They're at Morocco right now. They continue to strive. They had almost 10,000 more points read than anybody else in their part of the bracket this last week. So we were so excited for them.
Congratulations.
Yes, we were very excited today, and we'll see, they'll start the new one today, and we'll see where they're at next Monday, if they've made it into the round of 32. So we're very excited. So I had to share with you guys, especially just the class of 20 now that's doing this against bigger schools. So we're very excited for them. Just like Mrs. Neal's at the top, our vision, everybody passing at 100%. That's our goal. And that's what we want to see them succeed to do. And what is not on here is what we want to see realistically. I would like to see 85% of my kiddos passing. And that might seem low, but it's realistic for us. And of course, we'd like to keep upping that as we continue to dive into the data and learn our students more of what they need to progress higher. I do track my data still for attendance. Our attendance goal is 96%. We did not update this week because we weren't there Friday. We were still doing attendance from Friday today. So we were at 91.82%, and which is down from the week before that. Our year-to-date is 1.80. So we are low, and a lot of it is we have some of those virtual kiddos that don't log in every day. So we're constantly on the phone, talking to them, reaching out to their parents, trying to get them more engaged and on board with what they need to do to be successful. Next is our iRead data. It's supposed to be 20 out of 20 students. I apologize, I did not see that till just now. I would love to be out of 2 students, that would be phenomenal data. Beginning of the year, we were at 41% passing, predicted to pass iRead. We are now at 50%. We did increase. We've had kids come in, we've had kids move out. The class has fluctuated a bit over this semester. So we are still pushing, and Mrs. Sanders is doing a great job of just intensifying what they need to be successful on that. My NWEA scores, we had lots of growth. We do have 1 red in reading, and when I dived into that data with my 4th grade, we were noticing that they all had pretty high scores the first time. And then as we're looking, they didn't grow much. Some of them grew, some of them fell, and it was right in there that that's why we dropped 0.6% there. In our math, we've seen growth all the way across the board. Maybe not as much as we'd like to see, but that's in our strategic plan at Morocco, and our school improvement plan was to focus on math. So seeing these scores start to increase, we may not be where we want to be, but in the middle of a pandemic, we are seeing growth, and I think that's huge. And a lot of these scores grew by 6 points themselves, and that's huge growth according to NWEA too. I'm not real happy with the 51% performing at or above grade level in reading. So we have started to look more intensely at some different programs. We are using the Great Leaps program, especially with our special education kiddos, but we are also starting to use it as an intervention program in our 2nd grade, and we're hoping to see some growth there. We will be using the paper copies for 2nd grade, and it's a data-driven, research-based program that helps students from phonics skills to reading skills. So we're hoping to see a lot of growth with that program. My 2nd grade is quite low in reading, and when we looked at their data, we identified about 6 kiddos that could use some help. So that's why we decided to use that as our test group. 67% in math are performing at or above grade level, and that is up from last year. And I hope to see that continue to grow with us working intensely focusing on math facts. And we're also working on breaking down problem solving to know how to solve them. So my students are really focusing on trying to problem solve and do that productive struggle so they know how to solve problems. And like with Mrs. Neal at the bottom is our I Learned past prediction. 4th grade did drop from beginning of the year to the end of the year. Like I said, I think that's just with the prediction, the way it falls, that they started out so high and then they didn't quite go any higher. So it just stays right there. And they're looking at that data and we're looking at it, why? And we looked back and they had been quarantined a couple times. There were some kiddos that were had moved in and moved out. And so we're really targeting some of those kiddos that right there on that bubble too, and especially in 4th grade. But we have a lot of growth, especially with the ELA, which I'm really happy with. Math surprised me for the prediction, considering how hard we have been working on that. So my teachers are really diving in, and we are especially looking at student data so we know where to go from there and looking at the skills and what to target. If you have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Have a good evening.
I can just go real quick and, there he is. Oh, there he is. Sorry.
Ally, need a break?
No.
I didn't hear what you guys said. Okay, couple things I'll hit on, kind of quickly. I'm ready to get to the kids. They've been sitting here for a while. Attendance and graduation rate, kind of 2 big ones, want to take a look at. the attendance was real close to being with the state average. It was like 95.5. The last 2 years was 94.8, 94.3. So it's right there with a little bit of bump. We probably get over that because we want to be at least state average or higher. And of course, this is hit and it's dropped down some, but it's not, I mean, it's kind of like a little bit rewarding with the numbers. Because this was including the online kids. And the first semester there was 126. After Wednesday, there's going to be 116 this semester. That's including them getting up on their own and making sure they're in by 9 o'clock. I mean, if they forget and don't get it sent in that day, even though they're doing their work, they're counted absent. So this 90.8 for the high school, 90% of all of our kids, whether they're at home doing online with Edmentum or they're coming in person, is 90%. That could be worse. I mean, that's not too shabby. But we do want to reel them back in as we hopefully exit COVID this year and maybe get back to some normalcy. The junior high was 88.7. So I think a lot of them are interested in school. We had kids coming back to school and doing, especially in the junior high, either they missed the atmosphere, missed the social part of it, or their parents wanted them to get back to school too, type thing. So we had some of those returning at Christmas break, and that was good to see them coming back. With the attendance, to give you an idea of what kind of astronomical numbers that we're kind of looking at here, in 2019, pre-COVID, never heard of it, here we go. If you take every one of our absences, whether it's the dentist, the flu, whatever it might have been, that semester there was right on the money, 1,700 absences by students, 1,700 in the first semester of 2019. This last semester, when it was just 3 items, they were out because they were, positive, or they were out because they were contact traced, or they were out because of symptoms. And we're encouraging it. Everybody, I mean, you saw it on the news, everybody saying, if you're sick, stay home. Let's just not spread it. So we were encouraging people to stay home if they were ill. But just those 3 things that never existed before was 3,721 days. So there was 2,000 more days of school missed from students due to COVID from August into January than the previous year. So now it's going to be up to us to start encouraging them as we finish out this school year, the importance of coming to school and getting back and just getting into the norm. And we will continue to do the mailing of the letters, calling on the phone. If it gets a little bit where it's stronger, you call probation, ask for some help, whether it be DCS. But one thing that will probably be added to the list as we finish out this school year so they can get used to it and spread the word, Mr. Taylor and I will probably be making some home visits. And knock by Mr. Taylor, Mr. Coughing's probably not going to be real fun. I'm hoping they have coffee ready and hot and we can go in and visit for a while. But just getting out and reaching out to them, and it's like, oh man, unless you want Mr. Taylor, Mr. Coughing knocking on the door, better get to school. So we're going to add that. And then with the graduation rate, it was just over 90% there for a while. We'd love to have it 100. I think that's every school's goal, is to get every student to graduate. It has slipped over the last couple of years. And, there might be one little blessing that comes out of this. As I mentioned, the 126 kids doing Edmentum, 116 now. We got some other kids that are in school but trying to recover a class that may not went so well. So there's a lot of kids that are getting used to the credit recovery program and how it works, and kids working with other kids and talking about it. And hopefully, if we can maybe be able to push some summer school action with this summer in particular. Me and Mrs. Torres been talking about this since last August when you saw this coming, was the willingness of kids to partake in credit recovery or using Edmentum to recover those classes. And I mean, we've got some kids right now that they're starting to hear about it, and they're in school all day long. They got 7 classes in a study hall, but then we've got them on one Edmentum course, maybe making up an English 10, and they're a junior. So while they're going to study hall, they're doing that English 10, and then also doing English 11 on a normal class period. So the idea of being able to possibly recover those credits, and if we had a summer school session with kids that are that close to go ahead and make sure we can get them their diploma maybe before August. So that could be actually a blessing that comes out of all this, is just the awareness of the kids of some things that they might be able to do themselves, or while they're taking all their 7 classes, also be able to do that on the side. And kids saying, hey, this wasn't so bad, we were able to do it. So we're gonna try to incorporate that as well the rest of this year and into the summer, and it's probably something that could be used in the future quite a bit. Just a couple other things that I want to mention that's been very positive at school. This went with the winter sports was just a blessing with everybody working together, and the county health department letting us do stuff and following the rules, but getting people back out to watch. The swim team participated in the sectional the other day, had a couple relay teams get to the finals, set school records, did their best time, and that's all you can ask of them. We got 4 wrestlers this Saturday going up to the semi-state, advanced out of the sectional, and then 4 more. I think there was 9 that come out of the sectional, 4 that come out of the regional. One was second, 3 were third, so the top 4 advanced. Now there's 16 up there, so we got 4 kids representing us there. And our boys basketball team is now 9-4. So as we've started to lift the restrictions and people are coming back out, it's nice to see people in the gym again. Would love to have that band going and cheerleaders going the whole 9 yards, Indiana basketball, right? But they are probably within eye shot of getting more wins than we've had in the last 28 years on any single season. So the boys are working hard. The coach is doing great. We have had 3 times already where we've had the IHSA send me a notification saying what good sportsmanship there was amongst the North Newton kids and staff. After the Delphi basketball game, I know, and then I just got another one after the Tri-County game Saturday, and then we had one from when our girls went up to swim up north. Those officials or parents, somebody's getting on there and taking the time to say how nice it was to see the way your kids participated, their sportsmanship. And so that's happening in multiple different sports now, more than once. So our kids and coaching staff is doing a great job of representing the school. Very proud of everything they're doing. If you get a chance to come out and support them, that'd be great. Appreciate it. Let's get to these kids.
Thank you. Real quick, I would just add, we appreciate all that the principals have offered. I know it took a lot of time for them to do that, and I don't want to take your time in the board meeting. Just a reminder, we have January 20th was our last professional development. We had some teacher collaboration on math and social studies curriculum mapping. We had department meetings at the junior senior high school, and we had some sharing of some technology practices with all the teachers down at the buildings. With ADM, our average daily membership is up 19 students, which is a great thing. We have no school this Friday. Next Monday, March 17th, is a student e-learning and professional development day. Kindergarten roundup will come up on April 6th to the 16th. If you have any new kindergartners, we would love to welcome them. May 19th, the 6th graders will be going to the junior high. We had plans to do this last year, and then COVID kind of squashed that. And so we're looking forward to welcoming those students to the junior high.
What date was kindergarten enrollment?
Kindergarten roundup?
Yeah.
April 6th to 16th.
Are we allowed to go into the school, or is that gonna be no?
We're still discussing how we want to do kindergarten roundup.
I'll save mine for next month. Okay, I think we're ready for item 4, recognition. We have from January, we have Brody Pass in 7th grade. Would you like to come up? Principal or anyone here in the school?
Mr. Kaufman.
Should be around the corner.
Brody passes in 7th grade at the junior high school, was nominated by his teachers, Mrs. Leanne Brandt and Miss Melinda Kimmel. Here's what they say about Brody. Brody is a true Spartan. He works hard in class and he shows concern and compassion for his peers. Brody takes the extra step to make sure his peers have what they need and expects no recognition. Brody is the embodiment of kindness and integrity. Great job, Brody. Let's give him a hand.
Oh, we gotta get your picture there.
Mr. Coffey, will you get the picture too, please? Sorry to put you on the
I got
spot.
2 questions for him first before I do. Who called you down and gave you a chocolate bar? Who's your favorite principal?
These aren't close enough.
Nice job. Next, we have from Lake Village Elementary for February, Lux Simmons.
She's not here today.
Not here. Well, I'll read real quick what they said. Nominated by Mrs. Samantha Nurtot and the principal, Ms. Hankins. Lux is a hardworking student who chooses to make good decisions. She started virtual and kept in touch with her teacher as well as attended all virtual classes. She is honest about choices she made and sticks up for her friends. Lux has personality and character that would make anyone proud. She is true to herself, enjoying playing with others, learning and trying her best as a friend and student. Lux is somebody that I can count on for their honesty, even when it means it could get herself in trouble. There have been numerous times where I found Lux helping to support a student that has just been wrong or admitting fault when she knows she was part of the problem too. We are not perfect individuals, but when Lux apologizes and makes a mistake, she is honest, reflective, and strives to do better next time. I'm so proud of this young lady. I think everyone could use a little Lux mindset in their lives. Next, from Lincoln Elementary, Alan Vargas Huerta. Can you come up? Talk about this again? Sure. Alan is in 5th grade at Lincoln Elementary School and was nominated by his teacher, Miss Hannah DeLauder, and the principal, Miss Jennifer Neal. Alan has stepped up this year in 5th grade. He puts forth the effort and works hard on being the best student he can be. Alan is always the first one to volunteer to help out a friend or any adult in the building. He has used his problem-solving skills to dive deeper into the 5th grade curriculum and apply his background knowledge into the content we are learning. I am so proud of seeing the progress that Alan is making this year and can't wait to see his hard work pay off for him in the future. And Mrs. Neal says Alan is unfailingly polite and kind. Though he is quieter by nature, he is not afraid to speak up when needed. We have a new 5th grader who needs some extra assistance, and Alan has become friends with him, waiting for his bus to arrive each morning so that he can greet him and walk with him to class. I am very proud to say Alan is a Lincoln Eagle. Congratulations. Next, from Morocco Elementary, we have Landon Middleton. Landon is in 5th grade at Morocco Elementary School and is nominated by his teacher, Mrs. Nicole Warren, and the principal, Mrs. Christine Lava. Mrs. Warren says Landon is a student who is forthright and honest. He is an individual who I can trust. Even if he knows what he has to tell me could have less than desirable consequences for himself or others, he is still honest. I appreciate and respect that quality and want to encourage him to keep doing the right thing. Honesty is always the best policy. And from Mrs. Lava, Landon is a student who does what is right. He is one that will always smile and be pleasant and will tell you the truth when asked. He is one who stands up for the truth even if it may not be pleasant for him. He is a student who knows right from wrong and stands up for the right. He is a student who has potential to be a positive leader, and I look forward to watching his leadership skills continue to grow. Good job, Landon. Next, from North Newton Junior High School, we have Andriana Barron in 7th grade.
See.
Okay, I'll read that one at the end. And from North Newton High School, do we have Ben Sorvis? Did I say it?
It's Chorvis.
Chorvis, okay, sorry. Ben is in 11th grade at the high school and is nominated by his teacher, Mrs. Amy DeYoung. For Mrs. DeYoung. Ben has been a pleasure to have in class. He is always being helpful, whether it be to volunteer to grade papers,
help if I'm hanging something up, or just simply to stop in and say a question. He usually can tell me how to accomplish it. In class, Ben participates and responds well to questions. It is a good sport if we are acting out a story. He definitely keeps the class fun and interesting. He's very much appreciated. Let's give them all a big hand. Read about Andriana. She's in 7th grade and was nominated by Miss Grant and Miss Kimmel. Andriana has shown amazing commitment to her role as a North Newton Spartan. She has excellent grades and is well respected in our middle school community. She has shown tremendous leadership skills in class, and she's known for her friendliness. Andriana has the best sense of humor and is not shy about talking to her peers or adults. One of her most endearing traits is her nurturing character. She is kind, caring, and has a mothering outlook for struggling peers. We are fortunate to have Andriana as part of the North Newton community. Keep up the great work. We're proud to call you Student Spotlight for February. I guess. Go ahead.
The next items on the board agenda is noted as a spirit of a Spartan. And so we wanted to kind of recognize some students that had gone above and beyond, had surpassed expectations, had done above and beyond. And so, as you know, a Spartan is someone that's driven, that's targeted, that's relentless in their pursuit of whatever that is, whether it's academic prowess or an academic achievement. And so Mr. Coffey and I have the pleasure of awarding Spirit of a Spartan Award or a special recognition to 2 deserving students at that North Newton High School. So I'll let Mr. Coffey introduce those students if you would.
First one I'd like to bring up, and a lot of hard work, a lot of dedication. You could talk about kids like this all day long. And they're a pleasure to have. They're role models in our building. They set great examples. So for a little extra recognition, I'd like Hope Churchill to come up.
Tell us what she's recognized for.
Right out of the picture.
Yeah, them too.
Okay.
Hope is an alternate for the Lilly Scholarship Award. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of time putting that all together, and to make it to that level is quite an accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And let's see, is Mackenzie here? There you are. Did we know that? Mackenzie Dresball also is an alternate for the Lilly Scholarship Award. So we're going to recognize them. Two wonderful young ladies. Like that 90 of them.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations, girls.
Yes. You, John.
Yeah, I think we're ready to go on to number 5 non-action items. And I know a lot of you've been waiting here a while, so feel free if you need to get home for homework, whatever. We'll continue with our meeting, but you're welcome to leave. Or you're also welcome to stay if you'd like.
It would be all right with the roads getting fairly, is that okay? Our principals will go with, thank you so much for listening to all of us be nerdy, so thank you. Thank you for coming.
All right, you have a stack of first readings of school board policies. The majority of these policies involve small changes in state statutes. I can go through them quickly if you'd like me to. There's been changes about not entering into a superintendent's contract until the election of one or more officers of the governing body. That's the first policy. The policy next you have is 164.4, which talks about Board meetings are normally held in school corporation, but we can held other places based on what the board decides. Policy 0165 addresses, you're gonna see a lot of things that are gonna change that are underlined in green are a result of the pandemic. This is one of those, meaning that if there's an executive order that's given by the governor, then notice can be provided using alternate means, meaning that we can do those through Zoom if we have an emergency order from the governor. 0167.1 also talks about having those meetings being possible remotely or virtually. 0167.3 talks about public participation at a board meeting. Currently, the only change on the first page of 3 minutes, which that's what our current policy is. On the back, you see some small deletions and additions. Once again, these are recommendations from Neola for the board to consider, that are reviewed by myself and then Ms. Zekfia also. Zekfia also looks over the ones related to finance.
On this one,
Yes,
I understand that this comes from Neola, but I would hope in wanting to build a good community, that if somebody came and wanted to be on the agenda within 10 days, that we would consider doing that, because we're also here to serve our community. I hope we're not going to, tell somebody, no, you're not welcome to come. I mean, personally, I would have a problem with that.
Is that, what was it currently before this change? It's always 10 days, because that's in green. Because I was gonna make a comment, Neola is a company that we use to do policy, but we don't always have to take their policy.
And I understand there's gotta be guidelines, but sometimes we don't even get the agenda 10 days out. And if something comes up and there's a huge concern in the community, I want people to feel welcome to come here and talk.
right, you want them to be like, oh, they want us to be here.
Right.
Like, the current policy says the same thing, the current policy's on the board above behind you. I'm not sure why they listed 10 in green and underlined 10, because it still says 10, it's the current policy.
I think you had the option to not put 10, but we put 10.
Yeah,
You could have changed it. That's why it's in green.
So we wanted to change that to
So if we want to change that, we can.
the less days, and we could say 7 days a week. Or 5 days, I mean,
Sure, I'm gonna wanna go down to 1 or 2 days, that's for sure.
well, no, because you have time to.
You'd have time to
They have to
make
fill
sure.
out the form and everything and contact, so they have to, you could, the day of the meeting would be impossible for our office to
Right.
even get that ready.
well, and then if it's too late, I mean, yeah, you need to give some time, so I need to have discussion with that person and the president to kind of discuss about the purpose of why and is there a way that,
They might not need to be on the agenda. if
Correct.
They realize
If
they
there's an
should
issue
talk
that-
first.
right?
Is it within 5 days?
It could be whatever the board
7.
decides.
7. 7, and then there seems something that we felt really needed an exception.
Calendar days, just so I'm clear when I'm typing. Calendar days, are you saying? 7
Yeah,
calendar.
calendar.
Once again,
That's
these
my
are
opinion.
not
What do
for,
you think?
I was thinking of Wednesday beforehand, if we have board meetings on Monday.
One day, and then we
If they're notified Wednesday, it gives you a little bit of time Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
and Monday.
and then that Monday.
Well, what she was saying is, let's say 7 days before, they contact and they say what they're in, then maybe she's not available that day. I can make her a day or 2 to get back to them, and then it might be resolved and they wouldn't even need to come to board. It could have been a question she could have answered.
Okay.
Sometimes, so that's why I was thinking the 7, to give her time to respond, and ask us as a board, if there's something she needed to ask us, she could ask us, and then she could get back. They might not need to know.
Okay.
And, if we tried that and that didn't work, then we could change it again too, it's our policy.
Okay. That way too, if they did reach out to you on Monday, yeah, to me, that is making sense in my brain, yeah.
and you remember this, it's your agenda, so it's not my agenda, it's your agenda, so just because someone requests it doesn't mean that you have to put it on the agenda. I mean, it's your agenda. So this needs time to kind of work through that process.
You're saying they can request to be on the agenda. but it's
Up to the board to
Up to the
decide if
board.
they
Or
want
is
to.
your agenda?
Because sometimes it might be a topic that by law cannot
can't.
be on your agenda.
exactly,
And they don't realize that.
yeah, just because they're upset because the kid got suspended or something.
Right.
Right.
They don't
It's
even
like
on
if
the agenda
something
for that.
good
Right,
personnel,
right.
that can't be on the agenda. And they, sometimes people don't realize that.
And if they're upset about something or something in process, there is an opportunity for public input at a board meeting, so that would be the most appropriate place for that.
Right.
Um,
So they still have that.
So yeah, it just takes time. I think no less than 7 days would be a good guideline for that, because it just takes time to talk and get back and have it and cool off. And then if they really need to be on the agenda, put it on the agenda.
Right. You know, we're looking like, well, yeah, that is a good thing, we need to talk about. Don't put it on.
Within 7 days.
So I hear you saying that 7 days sounds more appropriate than 10.
And I know this has been out in the community before, that I can't get on the agenda and people get mad. That's what I want to get away from. I want people to feel like they can come to a meeting if they need to and talk to the board. And I understand there's certain things that we do, but that people feel welcome.
Well, we, like you said, we still do have the public.
Right.
Thing, so
And
they
we have
can
the-
come that
and
day.
they can come and do that as well.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
2370.02 doesn't change a lot, and some of these things in Neola are just semantic changes. They've changed established to established. 2623, this was a statute change that state test student scores can be utilized in making placement decisions. However, the student score and state assessment may not be used as a primary factor to determine whether the student's eligible for a particular course or program. 2700 is the annual performance report. Kind of just talks about what's required for the publication of the annual performance report. 3220, staff evaluation. This is a statute change that assessment ratings, if you look there, the student assessment results. For certified employees whose responsibility include instruction, subjects measured in state assessments, only when results could improve the particular certificated employee's performance rating. Legal settlement 5111. I believe it's a small change. Talks about at the bottom of the first page, the discretion of superintendent, the effective date of withdrawal from corporation may be extended to the end of the school year. Second page is kind of blacked out, it's underneath the transfer students. Our date currently is September 1st, so that's just following our policy or current practice. By September 1st, the board will establish the number of transfer students that are accepted. 5130, small semantic change from employee to employees. 5610. I believe that should be green, but it's gray at the top of the second page where the student will receive credit. The same manner the students being not suspended would receive as assignments are completed. 5893, just stop me if I'm going too quickly. It's talking about a work permit. That process somewhat changes, now called an issuing officer. That kind of outlines what they have to do with that. 8390 kind of expands on what a therapy dog is for students who require, or employees who require one, and then kind of elaborates on the therapy dog. $8,400. This is our Safe School Commission Committee. We don't have resource officers or police officers, so those are stricken out. We have to conduct a threat assessment before we apply for a school safety grant. Then we also have to have an MOU from a mental health provider, which is Valley Oaks, which we've done that in the past. That's a statute, and so it just becomes part of the board policy. And page 6 of 9 talks about mental or behavioral health services. Just once again talks about an MOU for services. 8405, environmental health. change talks about drinking water testing. We currently do lots of drinking water testing, lots of water testing, with MCO helps us with that. We already test for lead, that's already part of what happens with our water. 8416 is a new policy for continuing operations amid COVID-19. And then 8462 talks about child abuse and neglect. Once again, some small semantic changes, addition of Newton County Sheriff's Department. 8600 transportation kind of further defines what is a special purpose bus and how it can be used, what an appropriate vehicle is. 8800, small semantic changes. I know there was maybe a question in the 5th paragraph. Observances of religious holidays through devotional exercises or acts of worship is also prohibited. Acknowledge of, explanation of, and teaching about religious holidays of various religions is encouraged. Celebration activities involving non-religious decorations and use of secular works are permitted, but it's the responsibility of all faculty members to ensure that activities are strictly voluntary. Once again, this is not, this is the current policy. We don't, I think that the holidays are a part of the social studies curriculum, particularly from the primary grades. And so as such, it's meant as an education tool, not professor and make education. 9700 talks about patriotic youth membership organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, those kind of things. If they make a request, then we have to provide them one time a year at a specific time when they can have a meeting. And that's also by state statute. And then feedback about board policies.
You had a question on one of them about Christmas trees or something, right?
That was what the one she was just
Okay.
reading, you know,
That they can still,
yeah, because that's,
Yeah. okay.
On this, the one on the employment superintendent, just, what's road and green? So, is that saying it,
Which one is that? Can you listen?
it's first one, 1220?
1220?
the very first one.
Very first one.
Yes.
Am I reading it right? So if by chance, if the school has, goes to replace a superintendent during an election year, they cannot hire somebody?
They can't do it between November and January.
Are you serious?
Because there's been enough once again, a lot of these changes.
Well, November and January.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of
The
these
election
changes.
day, the date of election in
Well,
January
that's
first,
not time to be
they
hiring.
don't want you changing
Yes.
Unless there was like,
before a new member or whatever comes on, that's what it
unless
is.
something bad happened.
Right, so. Yeah, by chance, yeah, you could go 3 months without. 2 months
In that
without
case,
superintendent.
in that case, you want to seek an interim,
Yeah,
or you
just give
push
it
off,
to
or you
some-
have to just push off hiring that person.
But I guess I was going from July, I always look at this same thing, reading it as from July till so that 6 month period.
Just
Well, you gotta
beginning this year, if, like
It
Pat
just
said,
Goes into
somebody
effect,
just-
It goes
to
into
year,
effect this July.
Yes,
and it wouldn't be from on or after the
After
date
the
of the
date of
election.
the election to January first.
Yeah, I guess that would be the chance of that happening would be pretty slim. Okay.
You'll just have to time the hiring at some.
Yeah, because you're gonna hire one, it's gonna be more than that spring, summer. It started this next school year, which wouldn't be affected by that. Like you're saying,
And number 6, action items, acceptance of Republic Services donation on behalf of the African Boosters.
Thank you. Now that
February, we get a check from Republic Services in the amount of $5,000. And we ask the board to accept it on behalf of the North Newton Academic Boosters, and then they'll take the funds and look at eligible seniors and then determine who will qualify and receive 5 scholarships, $5,000. Asking the board to go ahead and accept that donation from the public.
We have a recommendation to accept the donation from Public Services.
Move to approve.
I second.
We read it today, yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Reappointment of Newton County Library Board of Trustees member.
You have a recommendation to appoint Melanie Burley as the Newton County Public Library Board of Trustees.
Okay, we have a recommendation to appoint Melody Barone to the Newton County Library. Is there any motions?
Move to approve.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Approval of disposal of obsolete items.
May you have a listing of obsolete items. Still a little bit. Would ask the board to approve these to be declared surplus or obsolete and will be taken to auction or disposed of if there are no minimal value.
Okay, we have a recommended to approve the disposal of the obsolete items. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Must have been a bad throw. If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
And you will not believe it. Guess what's next?
Did we make it?
Item D, iPad buyback program.
You won't believe it. I mean,
That's
there's
like
no way you could
perfect
time
timing.
it. Perfect, absolutely perfect. I don't know how you did it. But you have
They're psychic.
an email from Ron Lehman asking, giving you some information about iPads. So he's presented you with a lot of work that he's done to look around and determine what the best price is for each device. And so his recommendation, I don't know if you want to talk about that?
I can talk about how they grade them. Is that what you'd like me to do?
Well, and your recommendation is Tech Defenders.
Yes, it is, with a minimum of $40,000.
And so that would be for 865 iPad Airs that would be turned over to Tech Defenders at $95 a device for a total of $40,000.
I did have a quick question, my last question. For the first company, the Secure Tech Solutions, what is the basis? It says working versus non-working. Like, does that mean if they turn on and they hold a charge, that falls underneath that category? Or like,
If they power up and turn on,
okay,
and are in working order. Some of them have broken screens.
Do you want to see what you
Some of them have broken screens and
Okay.
stuff, and may not turn on. So
okay,
that's what they would do there. All of these companies kind of grade them. That was the Secure Tech Solutions.
Yeah.
They just had working and non-working. I wasn't very impressed with them. But the Tech Defenders, they physically came in and took a look at the iPads. They were the only company to do that, to give us that guaranteed $40,000. And that's the minimum that they're gonna give us.
okay.
Once they take it to their company and evaluate all of them, we may get more than that.
I was just curious because, I mean, unless my math was wrong, it would bring it up to about just under $52,000 if the working iPads were just, it turned on and held a charge. And I mean, that's the difference from 40,000 to 52, you know, that's a.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
I'd
it
like
is,
$12,000 extra dollars in my pocket.
yes. But Tech Defenders is pretty confident they're gonna give us more than just that minimum 40,000.
Okay,
I would say it's,
But we're not sure that,
What's that?
it's not guaranteed that they'll say it's working when we say it's working. That's the,
Correct. That's the other thing, is I tried to get these companies to come in and evaluate them on site, but apparently hardly anybody does that. They want you to ship the units in, they'll grade them there and then give you the money. And Tech Defenders is the only one that said, hey, we'll come to your school and actually look at them, for a percentage of them, and that's how they came up with the $40,000.
So the other company could take them and say, hey,
Yeah, they,
75% of these didn't work, so we're not paying you.
Yeah,
Correct.
It would drop down from $60 to $5 fees,
Right.
which would stink.
yes,
So,
and they didn't give me a minimum, so.
okay. I mean, on average, that would bring it out to what? Right around $46, $47 for each iPad, if they were to give us the minimum, that's the bare minimum.
For which company are you talking
For
about?
the one that, the Tech Defenders?
Yeah, the Tech Defender, yeah.
Probably doesn't, probably doesn't work on material. That's fine.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Any other questions?
Guess we need a motion for that.
I'm sorry, I do have another question. So we have to send those to them? Does it cost us to send those to them?
No,
Because I forgot
it's a white glove service, they'll come and they'll pick them
They'll
up.
pick them up.
Yep.
Okay,
So there's really no cost to
no
us.
cost to us,
Yeah.
but they'll pick up. Okay, thank you.
So we have a recommendation to go to Tech Defender for the iPad buyback. Is there any motion?
those are approved.
Any other discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0.
And actually, the land E-rate proposal, the land E-rate proposal is attached to the email we have, and then there's another attachment, and Greg is here to answer any questions about that.
okay. So just to give a quick update on what this is and the process. So this is the connectivity between the school buildings, so connecting Rock Elementary to the high school, Lake Village to the high school, Lake to the high school. USAC, which is a government organization, agency, has a program for schools and libraries to cover costs of that based on your free and reduced lunch. So we're at an 80% discount, so we pay 20% towards those recurring fees that happen from the different providers that provide the service, while the government pays 80%. We typically, in the past 11 years, have used the wireless between the buildings, and that's been working fine. But this year, in the past couple of years, there's been some government programs to try to get fiber in all the schools. So there's a special construction project, one time that a school district can apply for, and it pays the construction cost to build fiber between the buildings. Typically, this has been where it's still the same breakdown. It would cost the school 20% of that construction cost, while the government picks up the other 80%. Well, the past 2 years, the state has started a program to match the difference of that 20. So if you're at an 80% discount like we are, the state could match up to 10%. And then with the state matches, the federal government then matches the remaining 10. It makes it a zero cost to the school district. So that's what this proposal is requesting, is applying for. It's $1.4 million to build it out. If all the grants and everything goes in place, then it's zero cost to the school. And the monthly maintenance, which basically releases the fiber, so we're not in charge of a backhoe tears it up out of the ground, that type of thing. It's all still owned by the company. They're just leasing the fiber to us. We're paying that lease fee basically for them to maintain it. It's cheaper than what we're paying currently for our wireless needs. So, like for example, Morocco, we're doing 500 megs today, and if this went through, we'd be up to 30 gig, which is a factor of 60 times faster than what we have today just for this. It's just the equipment on each end, so the fiber's in place, it's good for 30 to 50 years. And the nice thing is there's a good chance we get it funded completely by the government and no cost to the district. So we haven't pitched it in the past because 20% would be 280,000 for the school, and it doesn't make it, make sense there. But since there's these programs, they may not last, more than a couple of years because they're thinking all the schools already have fiber at that point. And so we were under agreement the past couple of years they did it, but we expire this June. So that's why we looked at all options and trying to go for this. So.
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, it is, especially, and I was waiting for the state to respond, and they just came back in January saying they were gonna continue that program this year. And they listed some of the requirements, because some of the years they didn't expect as much money as needed to be spent. Sorry, I'm talking about, as much money, so some schools didn't, there wasn't any money left in the school. But they're focusing on 80% or higher on the discount, which we meet that one, rural, which we meet that one, and that type of thing. So we're checking all the boxes to make it seem like it's a pretty sure deal, but again, you never know until it goes through.
So basically, we'd be approving to go ahead and apply for all this.
Right.
And then you'd let us know if we got it or not.
Right, it's written out in the contract terms on the last page of attachment A, that the contract down to the bottom is contingent on both the E-rate funding, the Indiana State grant match, and then the additional USAC funding to make it 0%. That way, if one of those pieces doesn't fall through, the school's not liable to continue. And then one nice feature too, is they have until not this coming June, but the following June to get it built out. It's about 24 miles of fiber that they'll build out. So this may not be funded until July or August, depending on how long it takes. But they have to have it built by the following June. They'll continue our current pricing for the wireless links during that construction. So nothing changes there, and then we won't be able to be double billed. And then the other part, we own the towers, because we put those up about, I think 11 years ago or something like that. They've done some upgrades to the radios to get different speeds from when we initially did it, but all that's gonna fall back to school owned. So in the event that like a fiber's cut, we'll still have the wireless links as a backup at no cost to this type of thing. So it sounds really good. I'm really confident we'll get it, but again, I don't want to say it's a 100% guarantee.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, because you're talking about as they lay the fiber,
Mhm.
we would have one line through it, but it's capable of holding more
Yeah,
at
so
some point.
there's I'm trying to see who's on here. So they can't include costs that they would put in, like, so for example, going from Morocco to the high school, they'll put a path through, put conduit through the ground and everything to get it out there. Well, they may put a secondary conduit in there while they have it open, so that they could potentially then start selling fiber broadband to areas in the county as they go through these type of things. That can't be included in the cost of this 1.4. It has to be just the portion that's going to be affecting the school. But they mentioned in their literature about how they've done this in other schools, and it brings the capabilities then to allow you to start building out in the community as well. So, yeah. The only downside, which I would want to be completely honest with you, is we use AdTech as our E-rate consultant, and they do all the checks and balances there to make sure that we don't do anything that would screw up our 80% discount, because we don't want to be liable for that. Because of all the questions, like they have to go down to the price per foot and analyze all this with the government, there's extra meetings, communication, that type of thing. So there's a charge, addendum, a charge for them to do that extra work for us. And if it's all approved, it's $7,500. And if it's not approved, it's only $5,000 because the last step doesn't happen. So it's $2,500, $2,500, $2,500. So we're technically, if it doesn't go through, we would be out $5,000. If it didn't go through, that's the risk to the school.
But the gamble is a
But the
$1.4
gamble is
million.
$1.4 million.
And then ongoing costs would be lower as well too, just like.
Correct,
other
right. So if it did go through, then it all offsets within 2 or 3 years, and you're ahead of the game, even with those extra administrative fees. But just to be clear, if there is a chance it doesn't go through, there is a $5,000 risk to
Like
the
with
school.
any project, you pay a fee just to look at the project, whether you do it or not.
And I know that that fiber has been an interest in the county too, and
Yeah,
especially our
yeah.
area, and if.
Yeah, and especially, because you're connecting the towns in somewhat of a way to the high school. So there is opportunity there.
So
Like
who
I
would
said-
lay all those lines?
So it's the same company that's doing all this, M&W Telecom. They have their own crews that do the installation and that type of thing. The nice thing is it is all underground and there's none that's on poles or anything like that, so you don't have to worry about people hitting poles. We just have to worry about backhoes. But since it's not our own fiber, we don't have to worry to fix that in that emergency when it's happened. It's up to them. And then on their first page of their agreement, they show, if there's longer than 4-hour downtime, then you start getting credits on your services. They've done it for, I think, 10 or 11 schools in the past 2 years, both between Indiana and Illinois, and they've been successful with all 11 of them. So,
Did you say this was also MapleNet?
yeah,
This is
so
the
it's the
same- this is
current
our
provider that we're
provider.
using, that we've used
Our
for the
current
last 11
provider.
years. So,
So do they have to go get permission from the county in unincorporated areas to dig these lines?
Not in the right of ways. The county doesn't have any, I guess you could say permitting fees. They may have some permitting fees, but when I last checked to run fiber down roads, there was no permit fees to go down the county roads. There'll be some state fees and US transportation fees to get across 41, those type of things. But
And who pays those? They do?
they take care of it all. So it's a turnkey solution so that at the end of the day, we get a handoff at the high school of this many fibers and they go to each school. And then it's up to us to connect all that in. But
I know the county was talking about this, so as a courtesy, are we gonna reach out and let them know if we decide to do this so that we're not
Duplicating actions.
everybody getting in each other's way so that they can, there's a bigger roadmap here, a bigger picture?
Oh, I think definitely, if they're willing to put fiber, if ours isn't the only line, then they're
Right.
willing to put others in.
I would think they would just because if I was a provider, I would want to do the same thing and make it so I don't have to tear the ground up again.
Right.
You
Right.
know, 14 miles away. But from what I can see, they're not doing that because they can't really include it in our proposal of what they're doing. But just besides that, we try to make it so that we work with the community. That type of thing, so.
Have any questions? We have a recommendation to go ahead and pursue this to see if we can get the grants. Correct? Yes. We have a motion. I'll second. Any more discussion?
So we're just giving authorization to come back and tell us anything more before we decide.
Pursue the grant,
Check
pursue the grant,
anything, checking anything.
all the ancillary things that go along with pursuing that grant with ag tech and with help.
This might take a year, it might take 6 months, it's just hard to say.
Greg, what is how long would it take for us to know?
So we'll file, if it's approved tonight, I'll send all the paperwork to them tomorrow to start the process. They'll submit the 471 request to USAC to initiate it. I don't know, I've never done this type of project, so I don't know the timeline. I just know it's a lot more red tape and scrutiny because it's a lot of money. But the state grant applications are due by end of March, I believe, and then they're approved by the middle of April, I believe. So we'll at least know the state matching part by the middle of April, I believe. I have to check back for 100% on that part of it. But from a construction standpoint, once then it's a waits till it's approval, but they have to have it working before June of 2022. So even if it doesn't get funded, the funding, like sometimes they don't get, even with our internet access and things that we've had for years, sometimes the funding isn't approved until like June or July, and it's supposed to already been in effect, and it is backdated, but that funding process could take a while, depending on what kind of representative you get at USAC. You know, if you get the ones that are very stringent across every T and I, then it might take a little longer. But if you get one that's just like, get it off my desk and I'll move to the next one there. But just some examples, it comes out to about $11 a foot. When you look at how many miles it is, and they've approved them up to like $24 a foot. So, like again, it seems like it's a good chance that we get it approved, but
Okay,
anything else?
thank you.
Thanks.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Item F, Pop Warner use of facility request.
We have a request from Pop Warner to use the junior senior high school football complex for the dates that are recommended.
We have a recommendation for the Pop Warner use of facility.
End of August till November.
On Sundays. From 9 to 12. Well, it's 12 to 5, it looks like. They're setting up at 9.
Okay, we have a motion.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Our Sunday policy does say, if you look at the second paragraph, all events must start after 1 o'clock Central Standard Time and end by 4:30.
So do we need to change that? Tell them that at 12 p.m. we need to.
If that's okay with the board.
But what time did the game start? Because Pop Warner game, what's the schedule for that?
I don't know. Well, I think they can set those, don't they set those
No,
times?
Mm-mm.
No, those are.
that's in their
dictated.
whole, yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
set already.
What have we done in the past? Because we've had this 1 o'clock policy for several years.
And I imagine it's always just,
It's not a
Trump
school affiliated, it's not a school affiliated organization, so.
But they're kids in our district and they're come to
Mhm.
come to our school and they're gonna play football, so I think if we want to be a good neighbor, we need to do what we need to do to,
Let them play.
yeah.
I'm just bringing it to your attention.
No, I'm glad, but I just
Is that
think
something
it's-
that we could find out?
But you've already said that that they make.
Their schedules are set, usually a
make
year in advance.
schedules.
I mean, we don't, but do we know?
Usually start at 10 and their last game's at 3.
Well, this says it won't begin until 12. So maybe they don't do the 10.
Mm-hmm.
If they can arrive at 9.
They're gonna just set up in the
That's people
concession
setting
stand.
up, but that's not the actual
Yeah, they're gonna,
kid function.
there's gonna be people there by 9 o'clock. And they'll be like, yeah, they're out there by 5.
I
Now,
was
with
gonna
the
say
COVID-
5 would be,
I would say with the COVID stuff, they say if attendance expected 100, do we have a problem with the,
She's got that on there.
She's got that at the bottom,
oh,
she
okay.
added the COVID-19 precautions.
I guess I can't see getting that upset over an hour.
Well, I'm just saying, if we've got a policy,
Well, it does say.
it does say we can,
Right, it says superintendent of schools can make an exception if written request made 2 days. I mean, they've done it for 6 months ahead of time, so.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, I would like to find out if they have to start at noon or it could be 1. Is there some way we
I can,
I can find out, we can find out.
Kelly Brandon, who submitted it, would know.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
What are we in favor of?
Approving the Pop Warner use of facility.
But we don't have the times. I'm for,
Yeah, I was
I'm
just,
for as it is right now, from 12, from the times that are on here.
for my own information, I would just like to know if they have a set time that's at 12.
I think the league, like all the schools
Yeah.
come together and they
Yeah,
are all,
I'm sure we asked this person.
they're always the
this is already
same.
already set up.
Pop Warner, they're always the same time, no matter what school you go to.
And I don't think they're gonna put a different time on there.
It may fluctuate a little bit on, because of the.
If they get done earlier.
Zones, Time zones.
Time zones.
Mhm.
You deal with that on, school events.
So are we saying yes, that they can come at the times here at 12, or, and you just wanna know for your own personal after that? Because I mean, they've submitted the paperwork, we've done it for the last how many years, so.
That's why I was curious. I know we've had this policy about the 1 o'clock for at least 3 years or more. If this was the same time that we approved.
Yes,
It is.
that is true, yes.
So we've made that exception every time.
Must have, yes. Mhm.
We're approving this as this is written.
That's what I would be for.
Yeah, I don't wanna burn bridges with our parents, because somebody's involved in it. We've been doing it for the past couple of years.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? Okay, public expression.
Oh, let's do one more, good G.
Yeah, I'm good,
Oh,
G.
Sorry, we have Between the Lines Driving, for facilities use form. This is from, Bruce Cunningham, the junior senior high school, those driver's education classes. He's asking to do those in March, to 8, 12, and 15th to the 19th. He scratched out the February 15th to the 19th because I believe he didn't have enough students signed up. And then once again, we were asking the board to approve these only because we are not charging him because we don't currently offer driver's ed to our students. We don't have a driver's ed instructor that we hire during the summers to do that with the driver's ed car.
We did, but not anymore.
Okay, and so this helps fulfill the service for our kids to be able to get the training in driver's ed.
Okay, we have a recommendation to approve the Between the Lines driving instruction, use of facility request.
At no charge, you said, right?
Correct.
I would move to approve that.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. Now, public expression.
We appreciate technology coming all the way from Lafayette. And
I thought we were just gonna watch your video again.
Oh, did you show
we
that?
kind of skipped that because it
She
went,
sent it to us, so we.
Okay.
yeah, we might show it next time depending on what it is, but
Okay.
it was an accident and I told her they didn't have to just
They
do the
had
best you
cranes
can.
and everything on the interstate.
Oh, wow.
Where was this?
Right on the river, Iroquois River. So we stopped like 2 miles after the 201 exit and I had to wait to run out. So it took us from mile after 207 to 215, it took an hour and a half.
Glad you weren't in it.
But you made it.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Was good.
Glad you wasn't the accident.
Right, exactly, that was nice thing. It was-
Yes.
Right.
He was gonna talk, but we turned it on YouTube, so we're like, well, we can still make it.
Oh, that's cool.
I seen you on there and then I seen somebody drop off.
We're out there in Mansfield,
As I say, you couldn't have timed it any more perfect.
Yeah, you were just.
You were just waiting out there, weren't you, for 20 minutes?
No. I did the best.
It's time for us now, we gotta go.
I scanned in, so you'll have it.
Well, I guess I could read this for public expression. I was going to report something to the board. So I could, I took part in the first session of the ISD board member training this last week. I just wanted to highlight a couple things that they talked about, the board responsibilities and job. One, we are accountable for all, but we manage nothing. Two, we are to be sure the policy is being followed, strategic plan is met, awareness of financial performance. And the board has the overall goals, but the superintendent administration are the action plan. Decisions only made at public meeting unless an emergency. Board must work as a team. We're at a strategic focus, superintendent, day-to-day administration. Board superintendent relations should be complementary. That means not with an I, but with an E, where we work side by side. It's not the board's job to run the school. Superintendent is the go-to person, CEO of the corporation. Most difficult job for a board member is to manage public behavior. We need to set a good example. And all of the points that Mr. Adamson went through in here, I was pretty pleased because at this point, we as a board with Superintendent Rowe have been following all of these guidelines that he was suggesting in this virtual Zoom meeting. So I was pretty pleased that I thought, our North Newton board is following all the suggestions he's making. And there'll be 3 more sessions, so that's it.
Were you on Tuesdays or Thursdays?
Thursdays.
On the Tuesdays.
Yeah, Thursdays, and Thursdays, and I have a lot of Tuesdays. They have technical. But if there's nothing else, we are adjourned.
Now there was information about a work session afterwards, if it's too late, because it's kind of getting late, I don't know what you want to do. If you want to just cancel that and move it to another time, or have it meeting before the next board meeting, or, what I'd like to.
The next board meeting's gonna be this long, we're gonna